Welcome guys, HJ here, and in this video I'll be showing you how to dye and then paint the midsole on some Jordan 11s. I'm just going to go ahead and show you how they look after. So here you can just see we're turning Breds into Dirty Breds. One thing that I want to point out before we go any further is that when you paint over top of midsoles, you have to keep in mind that it may not be as durable as other methods of customizing. So anytime we paint on a plastic or a rubber type material, it's going to be much more difficult for the paint to adhere properly. Most of these paints are specific for leather shoes. So obviously the midsole is not leather. So do keep that in mind. Let your clients know, hey, there's a chance that if you scratch your shoes, don't take really good care of them, you might be able to see the white from the midsole. It's going to be very unlikely since we do dye, then paint, then seal it, but do let your clients know that up front. So we'll clean and prep the white midsole part with a deglazer or acetone works. Leather dye, make sure that it is leather dye and not suede dye. So you can use Alpha Flex paint or you can use flat black Angelus. You want to use some cotton pads for the deglazer, cotton swabs, and then make sure that you have some gloves so you don't accidentally damage your hands. So just over top of the midsole, the white midsole part, we're going to use the acetone. Do not get any on the patent leather, you could damage it. Then what I do after that is I actually take a damp paper towel, and you'll see it looks like I got a whole bunch on the patent leather. That's fine. Just use that paper towel just to wipe off any excess residue. Then I use a microfiber towel just in case any of the cotton swab left any bit of residue on that. We don't want anything on the midsole. We want it nice and clean. So when dyeing, make sure that whatever paintbrush you use, you do not need it for anything else because that dye will damage it. Also, when you are putting on the dye, I would always hold the shoe at an angle. So here you can see how I'm holding it at an angle that if any dye would drip, it would go onto the black. It would not go on to the red sole. Also, keep in mind that if you use too much dye, it will drip. So I always try to use a lot less. In the past, I have damaged shoes because I use too much dye. Totally not worth it. So just take your time. Use a very, very little bit of dye. It'll work out a lot better. Here you can see I'm using a different method where I'm using a very fine paintbrush first and then just going in on the edges. Whichever works best for you is what I would recommend. So you might just want to see, do you like using the thicker paintbrush first or would you like to use the thinner paintbrush? Also wanted to mention that you've probably heard of Angelus, you've heard of Jacquard, but you probably have not heard of Alpha 6 Corporation yet. So they just started making paints for customizers, which is really awesome for us. They've been in the industry for years, but they're known for doing paints for pinstripers or sign painters, but now they're making sweet paints for us. So they have two different types that I believe would be best for customizers. They have a leather paint and then they also have Alpha Flex paint. Alpha Flex paint, from what I heard, is the best, and I've tried Alpha Flex just a little bit. So far, so good, but you guys might want to check them out, see how they compare to competitor brands. There's a 10% off code linked below. And Alpha Flex also makes a base coat, flexible additive, they have a reducer, and then they also have two top coats, so gloss or matte top coat.
And so this one has had a layer or two of the flat black, and this one has not, and you can actually see the difference between the two. This one is more purpley, and this one's more matte. But you definitely want to go over it with paint, otherwise it'll have a strange purple hue to it. You can kind of see the difference.
over top of your paint just to make sure that you have a less likelihood for any scratches. You're gonna wanna use a finisher. So Angelus has a finisher, L&K has a finisher, as does Alpha 6. They all have finishers, and you'd want to use more of a matte finish rather than a glossy finish. All the supplies that I use are linked below in the caption. Also, Alpha 6 has a promo code. If you use my promo code Footwear Fashionista, you can get 10% off your order. Pretty awesome company, check them out. So the shoes are done. These were relatively easy to do. The main thing is just making sure that you take your time. You don't want to accidentally drip any of the dye on the sole. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you like the Dirty Bread look, or you just prefer the bread look? Go ahead, comment below. Also, let me know what you guys would like to see next. I'm just gonna show you guys how I pack up my boxes. So one thing is, when you order anything off of Amazon, keep the little bubble wrap, the inserts that come with it. So the red bubble wrap actually was from the client, but then everything else that I put in here, I'm just recycling from Amazon. And if you like saving money as much as I do, you can get some free priority mail packing tape. So you cannot get this online, at least I haven't been able to find a way, but you can get it if you go to the post office and you're super nice to the people working there. So I could have used my heat gun just to remove that residue there. I was lazy, I'm just using these stickers that I got offline on USPS.com. Thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate your support. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. And I'll go ahead and I'll link some cool stuff right around here someplace. Patent leather shoes are pretty much the worst shoes ever to work with.